Yeah. Okay, so we'll go through the last year's question paper that Sunita ma'am had shared. So a couple of caveats. Question two is out of syllabus. Question one, which we have to solve using solver, we'll solve it. I'll explain the Excel and all of that. But I'm not confident about the sensitivity reports. I'll tell you how to generate it. Then sensitivity report, maybe you can look at the class recordings that ma'am had shared, or you can, or maybe someone can explain it to me and we can record another video. That we'll see later. Question two is out of syllabus. Question three will solve fully. Question four also will solve fully. Question five, the problem is we have to use Monte Carlo simulation, which is fine. We can go through it, but someone told me that it hasn't been discussed in all classes. Also, this last thing here, where we have to simulate it 10,000 times, I don't think it was discussed in our class either. So we'll solve it as much as we can. We'll pause. We'll share an updated video later if at all required. Okay, so Soham is with me. He'll tell me if I'm going too fast or if something that I'm saying doesn't make a lot of sense. I will also have the Excel book that I just created next to me, just as a reference in case I get lost somewhere. So please excuse me if I refer to that. I'll open a new Excel sheet. And the first question is a mini caselet. So this is about, you can read the case at your own time. The main idea is that we want to minimize the advertising costs, right? So if anytime you read language about minimizing something, maximizing something, that should give you an idea that there's a solver question. And the objective, that's a technical word, would be to minimize whatever the question is asking us to. Now they have given us some data here, which we can copy paste into the Excel file. Now, in case they share an Excel in the question paper, well and good. But if they don't share an Excel and we have to copy this data instead of manually doing that, what I would recommend is go to data, get data from file, click on from PDF, select the question paper from your PC, wherever you stored it. Something like this should turn on. And then you can load the data that you want to select. So it's just copy paste करते वक्त कुछ भी error हो सकता है. So a new sheet will be created. You can just copy it into your blank sheet. Don't work on the sheet that was created either, because it's a table, and just don't work on that. Copy paste into a new thing and then delete that sheet. So this just ensures that you don't type incorrectly or anything of that. Okay, so we are told that men between 18 and 35, 5 men between 18 and 35 watch Desperate Housewives, and there's obviously 5 million, not five, and we have to allocate ads or create ads to run on each of these programs or channels or whatever you want to call it. And there's a constraint given here that at least itne ads, itne million exposures hone chahiye. Exposures mane viewers. If you read the question, you will get a little bit more clarity. So क्लियरली मोटा मोटा एक कंस्ट्रेंट तो इधर से समझ में आ रहा है कि मिनिमम रिक्वायर्ड एक्सपोजर से ज्यादा एक्सपोजर होना चाहिए फॉर ईच ऑफ द व्यूअर ग्रुप. दैट वुड बी वन सेट ऑफ कंस्ट्रेंट्स. दूसरा है कॉस्ट. अभी कॉस्ट को ऑब्वियसली मिनिमाइज करना है, तो कॉस्ट पर एड इनटू नंबर ऑफ एड्स दैट वी चूज टू रन ऑन दिस शो विल गिव अस द cost for that ad, and uska sum we have to minimize. That is the broadly the objective here. So if we have to make a column here of number of ads, ठीक है, ये हम अभी 0 डाल देते हैं. Solver will give us this, how many ads we want to run. इससे हमें total cost पता चलेगी कैसे? By multiplying number of ads for Desperate Housewives into cost of that ad. Correct? Plus this into this, plus this into this, plus this into this, plus this into this, and so on. तो इसके लिए हम यूज करते हैं sum product. Sum product basically sum of products. So sum product type किया. What would be the first array? It would be this. number of ads into sorry, बीच में comma होना चाहिए, गलती से type कर लिया, into cost per ad, right? So C14 into C14 into C11. So basically, these two columns, this and this column will be, this and this value will be multiplied, then added to this and this multiplication, added to this and this multiplication. That is what this means. So we just have to make sure that the starting point of the array in the first argument and the array in the second argument, starting and ending points of that array are the same. Basically, ये डब्बे की length same होनी चाहिए. Yeah. And then we just extend this entire thing इधर तक. Sorry, we don't need to extend that. Total cost इधर से हमें total cost मिल गया. इसको हमें minimize करना है. फिर इधर एक constraint है actual ads run ads or whatever. तो ये क्या होगा? Actual exposure, I mean, sorry. Actual exposure क्या होगा कि तुम इतनी ads run करोगे multiplied by that show का viewers. That will give you the actual exposure. और उसके ऊपर एक constraint है कि इससे ज्यादा होना चाहिए, at least इतना होना चाहिए. तो अभी हम इसको कैसे निकाल सकते हैं? We can multiply this with the number of ads. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Yeah. But obviously we'll use some product here.
You
Right?
can, or you can do it manually.
But it's just too much effort. So some product and you here. Now, if we copy paste the formula to the next cell, what will happen is total number of ads नीचे चला जाएगा, which means that ये argument हमें freeze करना पड़ेगा. So we'll just rewrite this quickly and freeze the total number of ads wala column and then copy the thing.
Lovely.
So this will give us the actual exposure. So one set of constraints would be related to this and another set would be and the objective will be the total cost. I think those are the only things. Let me quickly check here. Total ads is correct. Cost per, yeah, that sounds about right. Now we can use go to data, go to solver. After clicking on solver, we have to set the objective as minimize whatever is here by changing variable cells. So actual is number of ads, right? The actual is this, and subject to the constraints, actual exposure is greater than or equal to 60, and so on. I'm just quickly, I'm sure there's a way to do this quicker. I don't know it. So, and I think 2.5 hours is enough time. So we'll have some time to kill tomorrow in the paper. It's okay if we have to do it manually. This makes sense, right? This constraint makes sense. Cell, this should be greater than or equal to this. So cell reference constraint. It's pretty self-explanatory, I would think. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
That's
10, yeah. And we have to select simplex LP. That's the standard. I don't think it matters what solving method we use. We'll click on solve. We'll select sensitivity report so that a sensitivity report is generated. And we will just make sure that this matches the answer that we have been given. No, it does not. There's some mistake here.
we mismatch the limit.
Maybe we'll look at the solver wala box once again. Actually, we should have done this QC. 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. Oh,
Yeah, it's a mismatch.
so this should be L10. Okay.
No, wait. That's the constraint is this one is the this one should be this cell, right?
Oh, right. Sorry. So this is greater than or equal to this value here.
Correct.
Sorry about that. Yeah, looks right. We should actually check this once before clicking solve, but I got a bit impatient. Sensitivity report will generate the sensitivity report again and delete the original sensitivity report which was created in error. And yeah, this looks right. This looks right. Yep. So what this tells us is that we will only advertise on these shows. Yep. We'll only advertise on these shows, and the total cost will be this. This is the minimum cost to meet these constraints. Now, one small thing in Solver, by clicking here, we're making sure that all variables, all values are non-zero. This will be ticked by default, non-negative, sorry, non-negative. So this is obvious for most real life cases. Anything to do with in the business world,
You can't have negative.
yeah, like number of ads or I don't know. I think they'll only give us an ad wala question. But as ad can't be can't be negative. So just this default you don't have to do anything else, but just a caveat in case there's a case where you have to uncheck it or something like that. Right. So yeah, sensitivity report, there's some analysis to be done here, and we have to write our comments essay, which if someone is able to explain to me, that will be great. I'm not too confident and I don't want to put out something that I don't know for sure. So this was question one sorted. Hope this makes sense, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Now question two, as I said, we can skip. It's out of syllabus for us. I don't even know what method this is, but ma'am had said as much in the GCR post that she made about this. Okay, so this is a question about CLV, and we have to also find the gross profit. Number of clients, orders per client, average order value, gross margin, and retention rate is given. So as a standard in most things, we'll just write down the given facts first. Number of clients is 2875. Orders per clients is 1.85. Now, straight away, this gives us one metric that hasn't been shared to us directly, which is the number of orders, which will be a multiplication of the above two. So I'll just keep that handy right now in case it is useful. I don't know that yet, but I'll just find that out. And we don't have to do any calculations, so it's okay if we do certain extra things. Average order value is also given to us as 35. Gross margin is given to us as 70%. Retention rate is given to us as, what is it, 85%. Now, this is given, so retention rate is given, so we can find out the churn rate as well, which will be 1 minus 85%. Now, because 85%, I'm writing 85%. If you look here, it shows up as percentage. And if you go to this cell, for example, this shows up as general. So what if when I write 85, Excel will recognize that it's percentage. It will show me 85%, but in the back end, it will store 0.85, which is why when I do 1 minus D7, 1 minus retention rate, it will give me 15%. So it will understand in the back end, the correct information is mathematically accurate information is stored. Right. Now we have to calculate the customer lifetime value. Now, this is not the customer lifetime value that was taught to us in CLV, in DC. This is a more commonsensical approach, I would say, which is to have number of, which will be what? So basically, revenue into margin divided by number of clients, that sort of thing. So what that exact formula will be, I don't want to type that out again. So I'll just copy paste from the sheet where I've already solved this. This is pretty self-explanatory. Average order value, which is given. If you multiply that by the number of orders, right, we'll get how much money is coming in.
Total money.
If we multiply that by the margin, that will give us how much money is actually coming after accounting for our cost. And there's one more term which you have to calculate, which is average lifetime. Now, average lifetime is not given to us, but we can't assume that all of these clients will stay with us throughout, right? So what we have to, how do we calculate that? Using the inverse of the churn rate will give us the average lifetime value. Now this is pretty intuitive to me, but if this doesn't make sense, just like, I mean, just remember it for now, because there are very few things that we have to hold in our brains for this paper. So just remember this for now. So I just did churn rate to the power of -1, or you can do 1 upon churn rate, which is this is the same thing mathematically. So this will give us the average lifetime value. Let me check if I did this correctly. Yes. Okay. So does this make sense? So if you don't understand how lifetime average lifetime value हमें कहाँ से मिला, forget it. Just remember that. But if we know the average lifetime value, does this formula CLTV make intuitive sense? Right. Great. So we'll just calculate CLTV with like actual numbers. So average order value into number of orders into margin into average lifetime. Now I am going quickly so that the video is short. I will use some shortcuts here and there. If you don't know the shortcuts, I'm not using anything advanced, so just use your mouse and whatever. But in the interest of keeping the video short, I'm using shortcut. So okay, so we have the CLT, which is this part of the question is done. Now we have to find out the CLTV using another method, which is what we had done in class as well. So assume a time period of 25, find total gross profit. So we'll use the gross margin, right, to do that.
Yes.
And then find the customer, and we'll sum all the gross profits over the year, and then find the CLTV, which will be what? Profit divided by number of customers. So for that, we'll make a table here. I'll delete this for now, just so that it's all concise. Years, I'll write down here. Now, I'll teach you one small thing, which is the series method. When you don't want to drag your mouse and do something of this sort, or how we were taught in class, basically to write the first few entries and then drag. If you don't want to do that, because 25 is a very small number, but what if they give us like 300 months or 300 weeks or something? So there's a generic method. You write the first entry, then you go to the home tab, then you go to fill, the drop down next to fill, click on series. Now you want to fill it up in rows. Step value is 1 because 1, 2, 3, 4. So the increments of 1, and you want to end at 25 here. And obviously linearly, it is growing linearly. There are other more complicated series you can generate, but we have to keep it simple. The default will be linear. Oh, sorry. We'll have to select columns because we have to, in one column, we have to fill the entire thing. So we'll select 25 and we'll have everything with it. After that, we have to find the gross profit, before which we'll have to find the number of orders and the revenue. So number of orders, revenue. So first time we're getting itne orders, which is given to us, right? After which we are only retaining, we're not retaining all consumers, we are losing 15%. So only 85% of these orders will stay with us in year number 2. So what we'll do is we'll multiply retention rate with the number of orders. Now, if I were to copy exactly, if I were to copy the cell down, what will happen is this box will move to churn rate. And if I copy it further niche, so it will be nonsense basically. So I have to fix D7, or you can manually type out as well, not a problem. And then I can copy paste it. See, again, I did the copy pasting very quickly. You can double click whatever you want to do. All of that is okay. We'll have enough time in the paper. This also works. Or even Control C here, manually selecting the entire thing, right click, paste, all of this will give you the same result. Now we have to find out the revenue. So we can multiply this by the average, multiply the number of orders by the average order value, and we have to freeze this. Of course, I hope why we are freezing this, that makes sense. Now I'm copy pasting this again. This will give us the revenue. And the gross profit will be this revenue multiplied by the gross margin. I hope this also makes sense to you. Right?
Okay.
Now, I have to find out the total gross profit, I think. I'll just check quickly. Yeah, find total gross profit and CLTV, which is what I've done here as well. Yep. So gross profit is just a sum of, I hope I don't have to explain sum. Sum is a
Yeah.
pretty basic formula. I'm not explaining that right now. So gross profit we get from here. Number of clients we already have here. So I may not want to write it again. We already have it here. So we can directly find out the customer lifetime value, which is gross profit from all our customers divided by um, number of customers. This will give us a CLTV of roughly 300 rupees. Now, so obviously this may not make sense to you because we were talking about individual customers in DCE, but the data we have is in the aggregate. So we'll have to average it out, which is why we're doing
This
this.
CLTV is calculated like this is the total CLTV of all 25 years, is what you're saying.
In the aggregate, right?
Okay.
There's a backward looking metric because we only have backward looking data.
Got
So
it.
there's a backward looking metric. So what Soham was asking was sitting next to me in case you couldn't hear, was that this is the CLTV of all 25 years. Yes, because based on all available historical data, we are calculating this. So this is the best CLTV we can find out based on the data we have. So the formula or model, however you model CLTV changes based on the data we have, realistically in the real world. So yeah, that is question number 3. I hope that also made sense. We will quickly move on to question number, and of course, I'll share this sheet with you. Question 1 is, what was question 1? Solver and admix. So, right. So we can now go to question number 4. Okay. So this is a bit weird. The question is a little bit weird. But we'll first write down the givens. All right. I'm not spending time. I'll just copy paste from uh, the sheet that I had prepared in the interest of time and just walk you through the things. So discount rate is given as 12%. This is the discount rate, like the finance or discount rate basically, R, small r. Retention rate is 85%. First year customer base is 15,000. Profit per customer is 5,400. Now I'll mark this yellow for now. And the time period is given as 15. Now, what we have to find out is this multiplier. Now, if you remember the conversation we had in class, if we don't have profit per person, we'll come up with a factor that will help us estimate. So that factor will be the multiplying factor. And we assume that each customer is giving us a profit of 1 rupee. Okay. And if we find out the profit based on that, not profit, overall profit based on that, we can have an idea of, say, basically over a longer time period, we can estimate certain things based on just that multiplying factor. So, net, what I'm saying is, in case we have to find a multiplier, we cannot use the profit per customer number because we have to assume a profit per customer of rupees 1. So, time period again will generate the time period similar to what we just did, 15 years, right? Number of customers is 15,000. This will slowly reduce uh, according to the retention rate. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Now retention rate again will have to freeze. I hope this also makes sense. Now the discounting factor. What is discounting factor? It is 1 plus r to the power of n, 1 upon 1 plus r to the power of n. My bad. This is the discounting factor. Now, is this equivalent to 1 plus r to the power of minus n mathematically? Right. So I like to write this formula. You can write this formula as well. It doesn't really matter. N would be, of course, from this column here, and R would be the discount rate here. So discount factor is 1 plus discount rate to the power of minus 1 into, yes. I hope this formula makes sense.
Why did you do -1 into this? I'm not
Huh.
minus.
Yeah, we can do minus E9 as well directly.
Okay.
I don't know why I did that. Yeah, but does the formula make sense?
Yes.
And now, what do you note? Yeah, I just increased the column width because it was not showing me the decimals.
Yeah, got
Okay, so now what would we have done otherwise, generally, is if profit were given to us, 100 rupees, say,
you.
we would multiply these two numbers and bring it and discount for to account for the time value of money, and then sum up and then find the total profit. But here, and that will be our NPV, say. And based on that NPV, we'll do the what if, the data table analysis. But we don't have to do that right now, which is why we will ignore this this column, and our multiplier will be the sum of, yeah, and our multiplier will be a multiplication of this, or sum product of these two columns.
Okay.
Why? Because if one customer will give you 0.89 rupees profit, because we are assuming as present value would be 0.89, and there are 15,000 customers. So if you multiply that and add that up, that will give you an idea of the a multiplying factor for the NPV as it were. So the multiplier will be a sum product of. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Let me check. And of course, we have to divide by the number of customers as well. We have to divide by the profit per customer. So this is where we use profit per customer.
Why?
So we don't know. So we know profit per customer per year on the aggregate, right? And on the aggregate, from here we can find the profit.
Okay.
But we want to bring it down to one customer.
One multiplier, one.
No, for we want to find a customer for one, find a multiplier for one customer. Profit multiplier for one customer. So we divide it by, on the aggregate, what is the profit per customer. Does this make sense? So, okay. So if we have total profit of company and we have total profit per customer
Okay, so you're getting profit
per year, and if we divide that, what will we get? A multiplying factor.
Yes, profit per customer. Yes.
So this is what we are doing essentially. Now is the what if is the data analysis wala thingy, the data table wala thing.
Change the
What if analysis. So what this is they want us to find the multiplier. So for this retention rate and for this discount rate, this is the multiplier. But what if we change the say discount rate to 80%? Then the multiplier changes a little bit, right? So when it was 85, it was 10 point something. When it was 80, it is 8.6. And if the discount rate is 10%, it changes again. The multiplier will change. So all these possible permutations and combinations, if you want to look at together, we'll create a table here, a cross tab, as it were, as AD taught us. So we'll fill a series again from on rows, and we'll start from 0.85. They want us to do it from 0.80 to 0.95. the retention, the various values of uh, retention rate and interest rate, discount rate that they want us to do a what if analysis for will start at 0.85 and ends at 0.95. So it the step value is 0.05, 0.85, 0.90, 0.95. So you start from my bad, sorry. So the first, this is what we want to do, right? We want to start from 0.80. So you write down 80% or 0.80, go to fill, go to series, rows, step value is 0.05 and stop value is 0.95. The step value is just the subtraction of uh, consequent values. Right. So this is the selected everything, margin center. This is the various values of the retention rate. At the same time, they have told us find out when discount rates are this, 0.2 to 0.5. So I'll quickly do, instead of going to uh, series and all that, I can just type that out. Now here's what you have to remember. This the corner point, as it were, the 0, 0 cell should have this value. Whatever you want to find for these scenarios. For these scenarios, whatever is the metric that you want to find, uska value should be here. Then you select the entire table. You can do that using your mouse by selecting the first cell, holding on to left key, dragging and selecting the appropriate area. Then you go to data, what if analysis, data table, and in row input cell, you give whatever is present here, whatever is present in the columns, which is what retention is. The original value you put in. In the column input cell, you put in the original value of whatever is given, whatever is arranged in the rows, which is discount rate. And you click on OK. And that's it. This is what if analysis. As one extra step, we can apply conditional formatting by selecting what we just generated, going on conditional formatting, which is in the home tab, clicking on color scales and clicking the first option. So the smaller values will be highlighted with warmer, redder colors, redder tones, and the higher, larger values will be highlighted with green. Now you may be asked to do some analysis here. So for example, this tells us that if we want a multiplier factor for profit of 9.1 or something, then we have to improve our retention rate from our existing 85 to 90. Okay. Now
the discount same.
keeping the discount same. Sorry, I changed the discount rate to explain the concept.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was 12%. Oh, sorry, my bad. Why did we have? Regardless, this is what they've asked generally. So this means 20%, right? But generally, what we'll do is whatever is the base value of discount rate, we'll include that in our what if analysis because otherwise it is not very meaningful. But anyways, I mean, this is the question. Then this is the question. So what this gives us, the insight that it can give us is, I know what it takes, or I can estimate what it takes to go from a retention rate of 85 to 90. Say, improving your product in a certain way, or providing monetary incentives to continue with you, whatever that is. And I know what it takes, and the discount rate is governed by other factors, but basically controlling that also, I know what is required. So if we can do a cost benefit analysis. Now, for example, if discount rate were unchangeable because of the macro environment, the discount rate is going to be 20%. But there is scope to improve the retention rate from 80% to 85% to 90%. In that case, I know that there's an incremental benefit of 9 point whatever minus 7 point whatever, a 1.2 cut jump. Now, if it turns out that the costs exceed the costs of improving the retention rate to 90%, if that is far more than whatever benefit is provided by that increase in retention, will not work on that. This is what it allows us to do. So just because it's a higher number doesn't mean it is always achievable. So based on the real life constraints that governs this column, this these numbers and these numbers, we can do a cost benefit analysis to arrive at the optimal number from these numbers. That is the basic idea.
Correct.
Does this also make
But
sense?
that will require some sort of a
No. So SMBA question paper will end at this stage.
okay. Now you're doing extra.
No, I'm not doing extra. What if they ask us to write 2 lines on the business
Got it.
implication?
No, that's what I'm saying. To find that optimal number, they will need to give some constraints in the question, right? Otherwise,
No. I think if at all they'll ask something of this nature, and this is obviously I'm speculating based on nothing. They'll ask us to write what I just said.
an interpretation of this, what this table can do.
Yeah,
Got it.
I'm pretty sure, but don't hold me accountable. Right.
Yeah.
But so the only wrinkle here is understanding the concept of the multiplier. But that's just in the absence of profit per customer data. This is what we do. That's the broad idea. And if it doesn't make sense, I can obviously explain the thing from scratch as ma'am did using the example that ma'am had taken. But that will take a lot of time. Instead, it's just I think it's just easier to remember
Fast
the
models.
algorithm. Yeah, exactly, because it's already 7:30.
Yeah.
All right. So question 5 is the Monte Carlo simulation. Now I'll do it जितना हमारे क्लास में किया था, and then we'll leave it and we'll come back in case. Yeah. Anyway, so again, given data, this is plain English. I'll pick that given data from here. I'll not make the effort of writing down anything. Now, because they've given us that performing a simulation model, which is one hint that we need to do a Monte Carlo simulation thing. The other hint is that we don't have any data that uh, actually we do have average profit and all of that, but we don't have data about the number of customers, do we? No, I don't think we have data about the number of customers, which is another hint in the. So this is missing information,
Correct.
which is why we have to model it or simulate it probabilistically, which is the idea, which is the concept of Monte Carlo simulation. So again, try and remember the algorithm here. Write down the years. So this is again given, so I'll just copy paste that. Right, this is given in the question paper as a horizontal table. We'll just transposed it or written it down manually, whatever. Now is the part where we are doing the random, where we are taking random data or generating random data, which is the simulation aspect of all of this. Now there's one formula called RAND that just generates random numbers. If I were to go to formula and refresh the entire sheet, every time a new random number will be generated.
What are you pressing? Calculate.
Calculate now. I'm pressing calculate now. This value. Or I can press F9.
Okay.
That will also that is the shortcut for this. If we hover over this, calculate now, Shift F9. Not Shift F9, F9.
Yes, sir.
So this is the RAND function. Now, what we have to model is if the customer is with us in year 1 or year 2 or year 3 or year 4. How are we doing that? In the absence of actual data, we are generating random numbers and random scenarios. So what we are saying is, based on retention rate, if we can quickly calculate the churn rate, right? Which is, how do we do that? 1 minus 80%, right? So if we say that this random number, if it is less than the churn rate, we'll say that the customer has not quit. The customer is still with us. That's what we are saying. How do we do that? Using the if statement. So if random value is less than the churn rate, again, we freeze this. I hope why we're freezing this makes sense right now. So if random value is less than churn rate, then has it quit? No, the customer hasn't quit.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we say yes.
So if then, and then you have to put another comma and write the else statement.
So the first argument in an so say this is our roll number
Yeah.
and this is our marks. Okay. And the professor has decided that if it's an even roll number, I'll give full marks, otherwise I'll give zero.
Okay.
Okay, so this is marks out of 20. The professor has decided that. So what we can do is the professor would go to his their Excel sheet, type if say if roll number divided by two, what makes a odd number odd?
The not being able to be divided by two, of course.
Yeah. So they can just whatever the logic. I don't want to go into the complexity. I'll just explain what the arguments mean because finding out the remainder is a whole separate thing.
Got it.
So if remainder of this divide this by 2 is 0, then value if true, value of true will be what? 20.
20.
Else 0. So this is what logical test value of true and value of false mean. Okay.
Got it.
So here, if whatever the complicated logical formula, which happens to be rand, if that is less than the churn rate which we have frozen, then churn rate से कम है मतलब वो quit नहीं किया. Now we can do the same thing like this as well. If rand greater than retention, sorry, if rand less than 1 minus of retention, this will give us the same thing, right?
Freeze it.
I'm just showing that in case you don't want to calculate churn rate separately, you can always do 1 minus retention rate in the formula as well. Not that this is very useful, but just I was just showing you. So just remember that just like every time I click calculate now or every time I refresh, which is F9, the same thing shortcut, a new random number is generated. In the same way, the random number generator formula, which is nested inside this if, which is hidden from us in this cell, is also generating some random number based on which the output is coming as yes or no.
Just a stupid question. If you have two different random functions, how do you suppose copy this down to the last cell? So every random function.
So the answer sheets will look different by default.
Got it.
So rand, sorry, if I do this, completely different.
Got it.
So don't think about what's under the hood. It's just something is happening. And that's the idea, where you just do so many iterations that in the aggregate, you'll get something meaningful. And we are assuming that customer retention is a normally distributed data generally, and all that, those assumptions, those technical assumptions exist, which we don't have to think about right now. Okay, so now for the second year, things are a little complicated. Because what if the person has quit? Right now, you can see that the person has quit in year 1. Based on this iteration of random, if I press yes, the situation will change. So the formula will change slightly. And the formula will refer to the cell above it, the previous year's state. So what can be the, give me just 1 second. Right. So if the person has not quit, only then will we do comparison against churn rate again. So this same formula will be nested inside another if formula. So it will be if the previous value is no, and because you're comparing text, there will be a double quote. Then rand, then another if statement, rand less than churn rate. Now I'm doing all of this quickly because the idea is to tell you the story, and then you ideally practice all of this again on your own And then, of course, reach out in case Excel is giving you trouble. And the same thing will be,
yes.
Yeah, just make sure that if you are writing in all capitals, everything should be in capitals, otherwise the formula won't work. Okay, so this is the first statement, right? The first if statement is complete here. All right, the first if statement, I've closed the bracket here.
Yes.
But the value is false argument. The second argument for this main if.
The else statement.
The else statement as well, is, as it were, still remains. So if what this means is, if it is not no, that means if it is yes, that means if the customer is quit, then we don't want to show anything because our analysis would have stopped. So we'll write blank, which is just double quotes, meaning there's nothing, which is blank, and press enter. Does this make sense? This formula makes sense. We don't copy paste this entire thing. We'll just copy paste the second formula. Now, this is blank because why are all of these blank?
Because he's quit in the first
Because exactly. So if you calculate again, I've calculated 2 or 3 times, but all of those times randomly it just so happens that the state is such that the customer is quitting. I'll press several times and hopefully. So sometimes when I was making the formula, so here, there's so many. The consumer is staying loyal for 12 years, but sometimes you just don't get it. I'll keep on clicking F9, and yeah. So this doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about this. You just write down the formula correctly, and everything else man will check. Okay, so based on this, now we have to check what? We have to find out the profit. Is that right? What is the question? NPV. NPV. We have to calculate the net profit. Now this formula is very complicated. Now the idea is, give me just 1 second, I'll just study this. Yeah. Remember I talked about how we assume that the data is normally distributed and all of that. So that is a function called norm inverse. Now there are multiple normal distribution value formulas. We'll use the legacy norm INV formula because that is what ma'am had used in her solved answer book. I'm pretty sure if we use norm.inv, which is the updated formula, the answer will be same. But why take any risk? Which is why we'll use this. There will be a small warning here, which we can frankly ignore. It's just saying that this is a legacy formula. It was made for Excel 2007, and because Windows is a stickler for reverse compatibility, it will still work. But it won't recommend that you use this. But we'll use it. Okay. So that is one component of the formula. Another component of the formula is the absolute function. Now absolute will just return you mod value, which is it will just convert all negative values into positive, and positive numbers will remain as is. So if you can notice, absolute of this value will become plus 53, and absolute of this value will remain as is. So there are two formulas which we'll use inside this formula. And there's another denotation, which is this. Open angular bracket, close angular bracket means not in Excel. So what we have to do is, now the net for profit will only be calculated if the customer is alive. In the language of DC, if the customer is alive, that is, if the customer has not quit. Now, how do we know if the customer has quit? If the value in column F is non-blank. Is blank. If the value is blank, that means the customer has quit. So the first condition is, if this is non-blank, then you do something. That is the first condition. Does this make sense? Now, what do? You apply the norm inverse wala formula. Now I'll just check this against what Sunita ma'am had solved, because this is a little weird and this is the least logical part of all of this. So I don't want to sell you the wrong story. Yeah. Okay. So again, we are generating random values again, but we're making sure that all of that follows a random a normal distribution. So you do if, now if this doesn't make sense, I know, but just go with me for now. And now, what is the probability? The probability is a random value. We're generating it randomly. The average, the mean value is the average profit. I don't know what this is, but just the argument is mean. We have average profit, so we'll just use that there. That's how I've just remembered this story. Don't ask me to explain this. And then the standard deviation is given to us, and we freeze that.
This is the then statement.
And the then statement. If it is blank, then the net profit will be 0.
No, wait. The norm inverse. This is
if it is non-blank.
If it is non-blank, then run norm. Else
it will be 0.
0. Okay.
Because that means that if it will only go to the third argument if this is false.
Got it.
And when will this be false? This condition when it will be blank. And what does column F being blank mean? That the customer has quit, which means there is no profit that the firm is gaining. So this is the formula. Now I have to make sure to copy it correctly. Now after this, we can use the NPV formula which Taral sir taught us. Plug in the discount rate and plug in all the cash flows, and you'll get the NPV in rupees by default. I don't know how we are getting that as the currency. Maybe because it's a NPV formula, it is recognizing that money is involved. Whatever. Yeah, but that is happening automatically. And years of loyalty we can calculate by calculating the number of times there is a blank value, non-blank value. Now, how do we do that? So if we subtract non-blanks, or if we have to count non-blanks, right? How do we do that? There's a formula. There's a way to count blanks.
Okay.
Which is count if. My bad. Count if. You select where you want to count. And if you just put in blank in the criteria, it will give you the blanks. Are there 14 blanks? Yes. There are 14 blanks, right? I selected all the blanks and this count shows us 14.
Correct.
So this formula works as expected. Now, if we also have the total number of years or the total number of rows, which is the number of years, number of periods, 15. So this minus this will give us the number of non-blank. Now, every time I'm typing something, the rand values are getting refreshed, which is why you see certain movement on the screen. Ignore that. All right. So years of loyalty is just 15 minus count if. This will give you the year. And I'm refreshing. Let me do it with a mouse so that it makes sense to you. And just observe how a lot of years of loyalty, this will change. This will change, this will change, this will change, and this will change. We'll just wait for the years of loyalty to increase a little. Yeah. So years of loyalty is also getting updated. If you can see my Excel thingy, the years of loyalty. Oh, okay. So previously, if you like scroll back, you could see when there were 12 years, you could see either 12 bhi aa raha. So that's it. They have asked us to run the simulation 10,000 times, but I don't know how to do that. I have a good guess, but I don't want to put it on record because what if it's wrong?
Right.
But I don't think because this was not done. कुछ सेक्शन में तो हुआ ही नहीं था Monte Carlo. हमारे सेक्शन में ये वाला पार्ट फॉर्म क्या नटेस ये वाला पार्ट नहीं हुआ था. So I think we're good to skip this. So yeah, that's it. Let me know if there are any other concerns.
Good job, Bharg.